An open border would mean that there are no checkpoints, that there is no law enforcement, that there is no impact or consequence to emigrating to the United States from any country at any time in any way, whether you're walking or driving or flying a plane, checking in at a port of entry with a boat. That's what an open border would be. So let's be clear. The United States never had an open border, not since we had immigration laws. We can go back to Ellis Island and we can cite some vast and glorious evidence that there was not an open border. And the idea that there's ever been an open border is just as preposterous as can be and absolutely antithetical to everything we know about American history. No open border under Clinton, no open border under Bush or Obama or Donald Trump or Joe Biden, and there won't be an open border. Now, yes, the border could be closed in case of a pandemic or a national emergency of some sort, but those are temporary measures. And Donald Trump didn't take action on illegal immigration because he needs that problem. He needs that problem to have a problem to run on. That's what Donald Trump does. He runs on problems, not solutions. But let's face facts. Travel was restricted because of COVID under Donald Trump. There was no such thing as a closed border, and there never will be. Not unless you re-elect Trump and he essentially shreds our Constitution and invokes martial law, which, if you elect Trump, is a very, very serious likelihood. Now, as to this, and that's that. Now, as to this other nonsense about sending money to foreign countries and so on and so on, let's be very clear about the budget. This myth, and it's another myth, of the scarcity of financial resources to support all of our Americans, well, that exists largely for two reasons. One is that there is always bickering and fighting over who gets what in Congress according to their user stories. And the short of it is that the Republicans have long run on this concept of fiscal sanity, which means not giving people help because they are the party of the bitter and the angry who feel like someone might get something that they're not getting. They don't believe in helping the less fortunate. They believe in not helping anyone. But because they're not helping anyone, at least you guys think the playing field is even. But more importantly, look at the largest part of our budget expense. It's military spending, and number 2 or 3 isn't. They're not even in the same ballpark. They're not even in the same town or state or region or what have you. It's military spending. Military contracts have thousands, not tens, not hundreds, thousands of percent of profit. And if the United States government would just go to their military industrial complex contractors, all of whom are super wealthy, and say to them, we're taking 20% off of everything we buy, those defense contractors would be absolutely fine and still amazingly, astoundingly profitable. But we would settle the national debt, and absolutely no one would go without anything. But that's not going to happen, folks, because that's not how the game is played. That's not how the user stories play out in Republicans versus Democrats or liberals versus conservatives. The fact of the matter is, the movements that occur in our polity, liberal versus conservative, aren't big swings of the meter, one way or the other. Sorry, gotta do it that way. They're tiny percents of difference. Tiny percents that equal up to billions of dollars when you're talking about trillions in a budget, but tiny percents nonetheless. The one budget where we can cut a significant percent, a huge percent of total expense with only a 20 or 25% cut will never be touched. And here's why. We send the message of a strong America. That's our story. And in order to have a strong America, you must invest in defense spending at whatever price. The prices don't matter, just pay it. In order to be able to respond to countries who aren't even doing battle with us on the ground now and won't be if they do in the future. Because, as we all know, the next wars, if there are bigger ones, are going to be fought by drones and largely automated equipment, and the need for manpower with missiles and what have you is actually very minimal. The need for ground weapons is actually very minimal. We support those things now because that's how it plays out in the smaller theater. But were the United States to get involved in a conflict, it would be largely techno-force and techno-war. Now, all that said, no one's going to touch that because of that one reason, the appearance that it might somehow make us weak, even though we have the ability to blow everything up multiples of time. But the other one is that defense industrial complex is actually one of the very biggest lobbies. And you know how lobbies have a habit of getting congressmen in their pockets, senators, representatives, and one party, which does a phenomenal job of gerrymandering and essentially, over-influencing well beyond their numbers, is the biggest benefactor of that military-industrial lobby. So before you jump in with commentary like this, my thought, my friend, just check your facts and understand your definitions and do a little bit deeper dig into this concept of resource scarcity that you've been sold. We have plenty of money to take care of everyone. We just choose not to. And that's because personal interest, brought to you by the Republican Party, has largely decided that they would rather be in the pockets of lobbyists than in the homes and the shopping centers and the automobiles and the gas pumps of the American people. But thanks for your comment. As always, I'd rather have a viewer than none.